Hello and welcome to another Analysis Behind the News, where we provide the perspective that you can use to help save American liberty and independence. We have 3 action items for you today, so please stay tuned. The biggest news of the week is the exposure of the organizations providing support for the survivors of the school shooting at Parkland in Florida. Media has been reporting that the student activism has been generated all on its own, all across the country, due to social media, culminating in a national protest on March 24th, and not to mention the planned walkouts from local schools on March 14th across the nation. Yet, online articles from The Federalist, BuzzFeed, and WorldNet Daily point to those who are doing the organization as well as the fundraising for this student AstroTurf, including Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who is the former and disgraced chair of the Democratic National Committee. She lobbied in Tallahassee, coordinating the February 21st student bus trip. And of course, some of these hard left organizations, MoveOn.org, Planned Parenthood, the Women's March LA, Everytown for gun safety, Giffords, Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, and of course, the American Federation of Teachers. All of these folks have told BuzzFeed they're assisting the students with planning, strategy, and logistics for protests planned in more than 50 U.S. cities on March 24th, as well as a main march on Washington, D.C. for the same day. And who's behind the walkout, you might ask? The president of the American Federation of Teachers claims that they are. In fact, they are also planning a national school walkout in April on the 20th anniversary of the Columbine shooting. Now, you might have to ask, why would a teachers' union be behind a classroom or a school walkout? Well, quite frankly, because that's what the hard left does. They use disruptive tactics in order to get others to call government's attention to the issue, prompting the government to swoop in with unconstitutional legislation that just leads to more and greater tyranny. The John Birch Society documented this tactic back in 1965 with our Anarchy USA video. A crisis is crafted out of an emotional situation. Many times the conditions for riots and violence are created and the spark generated. Then the voting public, who rightfully wants to see the violence quelled, calls upon Congress for federal intervention and legislation. This is what's known as pressure from below and pressure from above. In the Florida case, the school shooting is being used to create an enemy, the NRA and any Second Amendment supporter. This helps to divide the people. The radical left organizations behind the students' AstroTurf use the angst that the media has helped to generate from the shooting to get the students to act. Now, while the students are being used as pawns in the name of gun control, these walkouts, marches, and protests will help to move those sympathetic to their cause to call upon Congress and individual states for gun control legislation. Unfortunately, private companies have already gotten the ball rolling. LL Bean moved its minimum age to purchase ammunition and guns up to 21, regardless of a state or federal law allowing a lower age. Dick's Sporting Goods and Walmart have followed with similar measures, including Dick's Sporting Goods and its Field and Stream stores no longer selling AR-15s or high-capacity magazines. A dozen companies that used to offer NRA member discounts on its products or services have succumbed to pressure and have dropped their partnership, including Delta and United Airlines, True Car Buying Service, Allied and North American Moving Services, Enterprise, Rent-A-Car, Alamo Rent-A-Car, Hertz, Avis, and Budget Rent-A-Car, Simply Safe Home Security Systems, MetLife, LifeLock, and First National Bank of Omaha. So, what does this movement hope to do? Well, let's take a look at what WorldNet Daily reports. They put on here, WorldNet Daily reports that the president of the American Federation of Teachers, Randy Weingarten, explained that the ultimate objective is to grow the momentum into the November midterm elections. Some gun control advocates are already spreading their message under the hashtag #VoteThemOut. "We are marching towards midterms," she said. "With their angst, anger, and authenticity, these students have pierced through the normal polarization of this debate. This moment is different." The public relations firm 42 West has been tasked with helping to manage media inquiries for the activists. So much for a groundswell of the students, correct? The March for Our Lives GoFundMe page has already received a flood of donations for $2.8 million in just 9 days. March for Our Lives has received $500,000 from Oprah Winfrey and another $500,000 from actor George Clooney and his wife. Businessman Jeffrey Katzenberg, former CEO of DreamWorks, is pledging $500,000. Another $500,000 has been donated by the Italian luxury brand Gucci. Other contributors include Jeff Rakes, former CEO of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and Chris and Camille Bentley of the Bentley Foundation. Now Democrats are already using the movement to solicit donations to help elect Democrats who will stand up to the gun lobby this November. Now, it's interesting to note that in all of this, that while many of the organizations have been exposed as helping create this AstroTurf movement, the overarching umbrella organization that made the decision to pull together all of these has not. Throughout history, the John Birch Society has exposed the communist elements of popular movements that call for unconstitutional government action. Is this the case now? That remains to be seen. But keep in mind, there is no such thing as spontaneous action resulting in a large movement. There is always organization behind it with the goal of creating long-lasting change. And playing directly to the gun control aspect of this, the National Public Radio floated the idea of convening a constitutional convention to repeal the Second Amendment. Now they write on their website, as I get to the right page here, "If all this seems daunting, as it should, there is one alternative for changing the Constitution. This is the calling of a constitutional convention. This too is found in Article 5 of the Constitution and allows for a new convention to bypass Congress and address issues of amendment on its own. To exist with this authority, the new convention would need to be called for by 2/3 of the state legislatures. So if 34 states saw fit, they could convene their delegations and start writing amendments. Some believe such a convention would have the power to rewrite the entire 1787 convention if it saw fit. Others say it would and should be limited to specific issues or targets such as term limits or balancing the budget, or changing the campaign finance system, or restricting the individual rights of gun owners. There have been calls for an Article 5 convention from prominent figures on the left as well as on the right. But there are those on both sides of the partisan divide who regard the entire proposition as suspect, if not frightening. One way or another, any changes made by such a powerful convention would need to be ratified by 3/4 of the states, just like amendments that might come from Congress. And 3/4 would presumably be as high a hurdle for convention-spawned amendments as it had been for those from Congress dating to the 1700s. Except that the original convention threw out the ratification method of all states and lowered it to 3/4. What do you think the next convention might do? Folks, it's the John Birch Society that has been the voice of reason throughout the years of protecting the Constitution, as well as American liberty and independence. Here's what we suggest doing. Action item number 1, share the NPR article with your state legislators, as well as our January 23rd article from the New American titled, "The Left Wants a Con Too." Then be sure to share with them the news that we have helped to shut down these constitutional convention calls in about 9 states in 2018 alone. Help them to stand tall against the vocal minority that wants to take away your gun rights. And action item number 2, let Congress know to take a hard stand against calls for gun control. You can find this at jbs.org, as well as links in the description. And action item number 3, if you're not yet a member, please join the John Birch Society to be part of a national concerted effort that has longer lasting effects than you would ever find in politics. So until next time, we'll see you then. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. Click here to watch more videos, and click here to visit our site.